Hello, dear friends. This resembles the scorpion that stung the frog and drowned, or the rational saying, "Let me go one-eyed so that you go blind," which in military terms is called mutually assured destruction. There would be no winners. A fable by Aesop tells of a scorpion who asked the frog to help him cross a river, promising not to harm him, for if he did so, they would both drown. The frog agreed and climbed on his back, but halfway across the river, the scorpion stung the frog. And when the frog asked him incredulously why he had done such a thing, the scorpion replied that he had no choice. "It's my nature." Opinion piece. Silicon shield. Protect Taiwan from China. Don't touch me or I'll bite you. Mutual destruction assured. Attack would hurt China. Taiwan, the world's leading chip maker. No country is self-sufficient in chips. No one would win and everyone would lose. Any military action would hurt China. Needed for quantum computing. Global chip shortage protects Taiwan. Semiconductor shortage hurts auto sector. Xi Jinping would have to think twice before giving the order. Let's start. China would be doing itself a disservice if it invaded the island of Formosa by land. China would pay a heavy price, including severe damage to its own economy, because it depends on highly sophisticated chips made in Taiwan, like the rest of the world economy. Taiwan's position as the world's leading manufacturer of advanced chips acts as a deterrent to military action by China. The silicon shield resembles the Cold War concept of mutually assured destruction, because any military action in the Formosa Strait would be as damaging to China as it would be to Taiwan and the rest of the world. It would be a win-win equation or lose-lose equation, depending. So, this potential damage prevents a conflict from starting and protects a small territory from a military attack ordered by Beijing. The cost of such an action would be so great, not only for the world, but to China itself, that Xi Jinping's government would have to think twice before giving the order. Mutual dependence. No country is self-sufficient in all aspects of technology, and definitely not in semiconductors. In recent decades, the semiconductor industry has fragmented and various parts of the supply chain are made in different parts of the world and by different companies. Chip design is mainly done in the US, both fabrication in Taiwan, and chip assembly and testing in China or Southeast Asia. China is developing plans to become a chip manufacturing powerhouse, but this takes time and is very difficult and expensive. What China is trying to achieve in its so-called self-sufficiency drive is to reduce its dependence on imported chips, which means it wants to make its chips at home, but those Chinese-bought factories will still have to rely on foreign technology to make chips, and this situation will not change in the coming decades. China is not the only country that wants to free itself from dependence on Taiwan. This also applies to the US, Europe and Japan, but self-sufficiency in semiconductor production is impossible in practice, if that includes the entire supply chain from chip design to board manufacturing. Even if it were technically possible, the cost of achieving it would be prohibitive for any country. This is why all talk of self-sufficiency in China is somewhat misleading. Shortage. The semiconductor shortage started in the automotive sector because manufacturers miscalculated how quickly demand would recover after the crisis. At first, they cancelled their chip orders, but then realized that they had to go to the back of the queue when they wanted to reorder. Later, the shortages spread to other electronic products, including laptop computers and game consoles, which were in high demand due to the worldwide confinements. Taiwan, as a major supplier of chips for this product, became the bottleneck in the global supply chain and the most desired country in the world for chip buyers. Quantum computing in silicon achieves 99% accuracy. A new study paves the way for large silicon-based quantum processors to be manufactured and applied in the real world by achieving 99% accuracy. Researchers at the University of New South Wales have demonstrated that near-error-free quantum computing is possible, paving the way for building silicon-based quantum devices compatible with current semiconductor manufacturing technology. Asia. Taiwan denounces new incursions by Chinese aircraft and warships in the last 24 hours. US seeks to de-escalate tensions with China over Taiwan without success. China announces it will cancel military communications with the US. China hardens its retaliation by sanctioning Pelosi and severing ties with the US. China sanctions Pelosi and suspends military, judicial and climate contacts with the US. What breaks with Pelosi's visit to Taiwan? Beijing is at a crossroads. It must not disrupt trade stability, but it cannot be so permissive with Washington either, because its next move may be even bolder. Nancy Pelosi's husband pleads no guilty to drunk driving. China wants to strengthen cooperation with Russia. Among the objectives is the need to ensure stable Chinese imports to Russia and to prevent energy supplies from Moscow to Beijing from dwindling. US-led campaign to isolate Russia and China falls short. Only half of G20 members have joined sanctions against Moscow over its military operation in Ukraine. A US delegation travels to the South Pacific in the midst of an ongoing standoff with China in the area. 5.6 earthquake hits northeastern Japan with no tsunami warning. Australia's Great Barrier Reef coral cover reaches a record level of growth. Spain. Earthquake of magnitude 3.8 in the Alboran area. 41% of Spaniards believe that they pay too much tax. The Treasury will negotiate with Brussels a tax reform adapted to the situation. 13 Spanish regions on high temperature alert. High temperatures persist, but ease on the coast. Extreme heat and afternoon thunderstorms in the northern half of the country will continue until Tuesday, when the thermal relief arrives. The May-July quarter has been the driest in Spain since records began. The accumulated lack of rainfall so far this rain year has reached 26%. The village of Bonaster in Catalonia, with 800 inhabitants, lives on 4 hours of water a day. Spain's ice cube crisis. The frozen water industry appears to be melting down this summer as production falls due to rising electricity prices. Spanish nuclear plants will not shut down because of the heat, as in France, as they have cooling towers. Housing sales experienced their best 6-month period since 2007, but slowed down in June. Almost 60% of the Andalusian agri-food exports are destined for 5 of the major European markets: Germany, France, Italy, and the UK and the Netherlands. National heritage palaces and monasteries receive 1.5 million visitors up to July, more than in the whole of 2021. Telefonica employees rule out 4-day working week. American Tower buys Telefónica's fiber towers in Spain for more than 120 million. PharmaMar rises more than 3% after the UK recognizes its cancer drug as an innovator. Santander financed renewable energy projects with 2.4 billion euros in the first half of the year. The automotive industry loses almost 24,000 jobs in the second quarter due to the chip crisis. Iberia, the airline with the best half-year results. Vueling crew members reached an agreement with the company to raise wages by 6.5%. Worldwide demand for air travel soars 76.2% in June. He learns of his dismissal by SMS, and the WhatsApp message with which he responds to his boss goes viral. In quotes, "Of all my dismissals, this was by far the crappiest, I have to say." Spanish government failed to apologize to 2 black women affected by campaign. British model Nicholas Williams has said the Spanish government has been racist in failing to apologize to her and another black model, Sian Green Lott, and to her white colleague Juliette Fitzpatrick, after using and modifying their faces and bodies without their consent for a Ministry of Equality advertising campaign. Americas. Rescue teams are working against the clock to rescue 10 miners in Mexico who have been trapped in a coal mine in the Sabinas mining region. López Obrador asks the families of the 10 trapped miners not to lose faith. Journalist Ernesto Méndez is shot dead in Mexico, the 13th journalist killed so far this year. Clandestine rapes with 11 bodies discovered in western Mexico. Record sandwich in Mexico, 74 meters long and weighing more than 800 kilos. Chile debates its new constitution, which will define the country's direction. Peruvian actor and singer Diego Berti dies at 54 after falling from the 14th floor of a building. Colombia's coffee production fell by 22% in July. Juan Valdez is on holiday. President Petro's inauguration in Colombia will take place in a massive event where 100,000 people are expected to attend. Samantha Power will lead the US delegation to Petro's inauguration. The Vice President of Uruguay will attend Gustavo Petro's inauguration. Peruvian government takes another leap into the void as its Prime Minister resigns. Peru's President Pedro Castillo testifies on corruption charges. Castillo apologizes to Petro for not attending his inauguration and says the Vice President will go in his place. The government of Ecuador will ask the United Nations rapporteur to be present at the talks with indigenous peoples. Women, indigenous people and young people, protagonists of the La Paz Book Fair, Bolivia. A Venezuelan artist creates a giant mural with more than 23,000 plastic lids. The work of illustrator Oscar Olivares is in honor of the Santo Cristo de la Grita, patron saint of a Venezuelan region bordering Colombia. Venezuela's economic growth is the highest in the region, says Maduro. And NGO counts 43 protests in Venezuela during the first 3 days of August. Cuba buys dollars to cope with its economic crisis. Cuba will buy dollars at 5 times the official exchange rate. The Inter-American Press Association denounces the massive closure of the radio stations in Nicaragua. The Nicaraguan army displays its weapons in the Plaza de la Fe, San Juan Pablo II. The president of Costa Rica promises a law to fix a ceiling on fuel prices. Brazil's military inspects electronic ballot boxes. Iberdrola starts up its first photovoltaic plant in Brazil with a capacity of 149 megawatts. USA. Florida prosecutor suspended by DeSantis defiantly says he will continue to serve. Attorney General Paxton says the Hispanic community is frustrated by illegal immigration. Mothers for Freedom National Hispanic Coordinator says sex education is abuse, in her opinion. San Bernardino approves a measure of possible secession from California. Hackers seek Americans' DNA data. Elon Musk accuses Twitter of fraud in his countersuit. Alex Jones ordered to pay more than $4 million for his theory about the Sandy Hook massacre. A university admits it may have broken the law in a contract with the Wuhan lab. Amazon will buy iRobot, maker of the famous Roomba Hoover. The Batgirl movie has been cancelled after Warner Bros. Spent $90 million on its production. Brad Pitt reigns supreme in this weekend's premieres with Ballet Train. Europe. Finland reviews the pros and cons of denying visas to Russian citizens. A volcano erupts 40 kilometers from Iceland's capital. The Pope receives the Patriarch of Lisbon in the midst of the controversy over a pedophilia case. Brussels launches a tool to assess the risk of forest fires using European Union data. Extreme drought in Europe. Romania's fields have turned into sunflower graveyards. Severe heat waves have dried up the season's production. In addition, there has been no rain since May, and the drought is wiping out other crops. In Italy, the Po River bank is suffering the worst drought in 70 years, and the state of emergency has just been approved in 5 regions, with 36 million euros earmarked mainly for farmers. In France, the government has set up a crisis cabinet to deal with the worst drought even recorded in the country. 62 of the 93 departments are on red alert due to lack of water. The most affected industries are agriculture and livestock. Countries such as Germany and the UK are also experiencing much higher than normal temperatures, with devastating effects on water supplies and crops. Uncontrolled fire in a Berlin forest after an explosive depot detonated. The spectacular Neuschwanstein castle in Germany, which attracts more than a million tourists every year is to be renovated. A 29-year-old German woman turns down a €4 billion inheritance. In quotes, "I don't want to be that rich," she said. The Bank of England says the UK is heading for a long recession amid warnings of 15% inflation. €15,000 bail for climbing Mont Blanc to deter summer climbers. Prague has hosted a summer school for Chinese technology company Huawei. Kosovo becomes the country of contemporary European art for 100 days. Hungary's Prime Minister warns the West about a communist takeover. Viktor Orbán on Hungary's needs, in quotes, "less drag queens and more Chuck Norris." The Hungarian Prime Minister gave a speech at the Political Action Conference in Texas. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.